Hey everyone, welcome to Founders 365 with me, Steven Haggerty. Today, I'm joined by Wendy Glavin, all the way from the States. How are you today, Wendy?
I'm good. Thanks, Steven, for having me on the show.
Thank you so much. I completely ballsed up that start, let's face it, but it's all good. Wendy, thank you so much for being on the show. My first question, as always, with every single guest is, what do you do, Wendy?
What do I do?
What do you do? Just tell me what you do, please.
Okay, so what do? I'll do a short elevator pitch.
Yeah. But elevator pitch, but you know, imagine we have like 60 floors, so it doesn't have to be a
okay, then I'll start with the elevator pitch. So I'm a 30-year marketing communications veteran. I worked in corporate agencies and consulting. I founded my own agency in 2016, offering full service marketing, executive writing, public relations, and social media advisory. I'm a tech columnist for Equities. I write once a month. My column's called Glavin's Tech Talk, and I'm a published writer. So, and I'm a proud mom of 3 grown boys two of them are in the other room who'll probably be like, oh my God.
Because they'll be like, she's doing it again. She's on that.
It's like that Geico commercial where the mother's like running out, like,
yeah.
I'm just like, be quiet.
So I would say that you're someone with a heck of a lot of expertise then, let's put it lightly.
Thank you.
Yeah. What made you start your own agency in 2016 then? Because, you know, if you were working for the comfortable working in terms of for other people, what made you do it on your own?
So it's not really the best story, which is why I'm not going to give out names. I'm not going to give names, but yeah. So probably, I mean, I worked at Burson Marsteller, which is now Burson Cohen Wolf. I worked in-house at GE. And the thing is, when you work for an agency, I won't say every agency, some agencies, they double and triple bill you out. Mm-hmm. So I was working for an agency full-time remotely in Chicago, and I was working with a fintech startup. And he said to me, boy, and we had to start everything from scratch, like his Twitter, his LinkedIn, his, website, content marketing, all that stuff, PR. So he said, Twitter really costs a lot a month. And I don't remember what it was at the time. I said, what? Like, it was like $30 or $50 an hour or something like that. He goes, no, I'm being charged $150. I was like, what? Like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So I was being I was being triple billed out. Mm-hmm. And that really bothered me because I feel like, at least as a representation of me, like I want to charge the value of the service. So while that's not a good statement to make, because it's kind of like, oh, well then, the value of the service means perhaps it doesn't cost that much, but it really doesn't. I mean, if you're 30 years experience, it doesn't cost $500 to write a press release. It doesn't cost some of the amounts of money that's being charged. So, I have kind of this niche where my expertise is technology, and I work a lot with startups in blockchain, artificial intelligence, financial technology, financial services. And so I have like a sliding scale. Typically agencies charge $10,000 per month. But obviously if you're a startup, I mean, you don't have that kind of money. So I think it's more fun to work with like startups or companies that are in a growth stage because things happen faster. It's like you're in the, from the ground up, it's more collaborative, that sort of thing. So
do you find working with those people also more rewarding for you?
It's rewarding when, there's a former client of mine that was so shy. She had a blockchain company and she's Chinese and she has a bit of an accent, and she came up to me at this event and just said, hi, nice to meet you, that type of thing. And then I worked with her and practice. I had her keep reading the pitch and, helping with the writing. And anyway, she was chosen to be part of Columbia Accelerator.
Oh, wow.
So that's like really exciting for me. I work with another blockchain startup, Blockchain Wallet. His name is Ruben Mayer, and he's like another one who's, they starts out, and then I think sometimes it has to do with the level of confidence. I'm saying for any of us, it's kind of like sure. That, or it's like the imposter syndrome. And then once you like get the push, then, you get going. So yes, it's been extremely rewarding. And what I've been,
And that push for you was what, in terms of that confidence and that push for you then, what is it, 4 years ago, 2016, are you glad you did it?
yeah. And also, what you were saying, that, I felt like, I come from, my father was an attorney, and I just believe in, charging people fairly, and, being really transparent. And like,
Yeah.
I spoke to a startup yesterday, and they said, you don't have a lot of money. And it's like, okay, let's not talk about that now. Let's just talk about what you want to do, and what, we might accomplish at some other time. So,
Yeah.
I
Super
prefer,
refreshing then.
yeah, thank you. I prefer to work with people that way. The other thing is I'm really honest. So I'll tell you a funny story. So a company said to me, we want you to get us public relations, and that's earned media. I don't do any advertising. I don't use the wire services. So I said, okay, well, the thing is, you need to change the writing on your website, because most typically, websites are difficult to understand. They're too text heavy. They use buzzwords like, we're revolutionary, we're disrupting, we're the simplest, the best, the easiest, judgment words. So I started to explain that to him and said, just the content needs to be changed so that, people understand. So he says to me, I don't need a writing lesson from you. So I said, I'm not giving you a writing lesson. I'm telling you what, editors are going to look at, or the journalists or people are going to look at. So I said, what do you do for a living? He goes, I work on Wall Street. And all of a sudden I think, oh my God, that's like my ex-husband. So he's like, okay, fine, send me a proposal. And I never followed up, because I was like, if a relationship is already starting out that way, where I'm trying to be helpful and someone's saying, don't tell me how to write, then I never even followed up. It's not like I have the luxury, like, I have so much money, I can like choose my clients. It's more just, I think it's really about, building the relationship. It's all about relationships.
Definitely. And actually, you do have the luxury of choosing your clients, even if you don't have hundreds of them. Even if someone was saying that, their first client, I would always say, look, work with someone that you're going to get on with. Like you said, if that relationship is itchy from the start, it's not going to get better. It doesn't wake up and suddenly you both get on really well.
No, that's like a lesson. I mean, a lesson that I learned, because sometimes I over deliver. So I really do a lot of work and research, and sometimes don't get paid for what I deserve. Get paid really low.
Yeah.
So I learned that lesson, meaning only within the last year or two, that, sometimes I just have to say no. But I don't have the luxury. It's not like people are banging down my door to hire me. But it just makes me feel good about myself. Like it goes to my values. It's, being honest, being transparent, telling clients or prospects what they don't want to hear. I'd want to tell the truth.
Why do you think, especially in marketing, I guess is what I'm egging on here. Why do you think that's not always the case? Because when someone's honest and transparent like yourself, like I said, it is refreshing, but it shouldn't be refreshing. It should be the norm, right?
Well, I think in general, people don't necessarily want to hear things that are negative. So
very true.
You have to like build up a thick skin, to be able to, it's like taking rejection. Like someone creates a website and they put their heart and soul into it. And then I'm like, listen, it's too text heavy. It's too wordy. It's too, so
you shoot it down.
Yeah. So I think it's hard to take that. It's hard to take any sort of rejection. So I try to sort of balance it by giving a suggestion, not, okay, this sucks. And like, you know what I mean? Giving a suggestion. So, everybody's talked about this, it's like almost like a buzzword. We need to be more transparent. We need to be more vulnerable. But I think something good about these difficult times is that we're having to be like this, because we're on virtual calls more. I'm in my bedroom. You're obviously at your home, and we have to. So it's forcing us to be more vulnerable, which I think is good.
On that topic then, how do you think marketing and like relationships, PR relations are going to change after this? If at all, maybe they're not, or do you think they will?
I mean, I think what it really comes down to is people. You know, I want to just read you this quote because I did a webcast last week, free. Hold on, I want to read you this quote. It's not my quote.
It's just a really good quote.
Yeah, it's a really good quote because it answers your question, but in a much more. Hold on.
I'll play some hold music.
Okay, listen to this. So I did this. It's called. It's sort of. It's like the Glavin's Tech Talk, where I try to educate C-suites about technology. So I've been kind of branding that Tech Talk. So Tech Talk, how to become more marketable. Tech Talk on a LinkedIn group from newbies to savvy. So today the webcast is live to download. So thanks for da-da-da. And then I said, if you listen, I hope it sparks you to learn more about technology. As IBM CEO Arvind Krishna said, quote, the company needs people who say, hey, my mind is plastic. I can expand it. I can learn more. People who are more resilient in the face of obstacles and challenges. So what I try to talk to people about is, or speak about a lot, is instead of thinking of our careers as one long trajectory, if you look back at your background, your experiences, your relationships, your interests, your hobbies, you can find common patterns and transferable skills. So I'll give you two like silly examples. One is I went to a discussion about networking just to back my friend. And so it's sort of basic, but one thing she did was she wanted to separate people into groups. And she said, I don't want you to say where you're from or what you do. She said, one person will be a penguin farmer and two of the other people will be reporters. And the penguin farmer is moving the penguins to blank. Okay, so I said, okay, I'll be the reporter. So I'm like firing all these questions, like, how are you going to transfer them? Do they each have names? Like, firing question after question, like, how are you going to feed them? Like, what do you, blah, blah. Anyway, so where does that come from? Well, my oldest son used to work at the Central Park Zoo in the penguin department.
Amazing.
So that's like a silly example of where we can take from our past. And the other example was one of my sons was like, could you cut my hair? I was like, yeah, I cut like my friend's hair in the dorm room in college. And so a friend of mine was like, I didn't know you had that skill. And I said, well, no, I'm not going to become a stylist. But, if we're more sort of flexible about thinking about our backgrounds and don't get so stuck in like, I'm a marketing person, I'm a PR person. So that's what inspired me to learn about technology. I just got, I realized in looking back that that's actually been the thread throughout my career, but I didn't really own it, nor did I really own that I was a writer. I've written probably for, like 100 years because I'm getting up there in age. But the thing is, I also didn't own that. So I think some of it is like owning it. Like, what? I am a writer. Like I can write. And then that led to the tech column and that sort of thing.
Do you think that owning it started off when you decided to go off on your own and start your own agency?
I think owning it, well, here's what happened. So I was in a taxi that crashed with a Mack truck. Previously, years before, I had 2 knee replacements. So I founded my agency in August 2016. I was in the taxi and Mack truck crash, November 28, 2016. So I was bedridden with a full right leg brace.
Wow.
The knee smashed against a taxi partition. I couldn't move my legs. So I had a torn MCL on my knee replacement. And so I was at home in bed, like, how am I supposed to work? So I hired a mentor and a business advisor, and she kind of gave me homework assignments every week, which kept me going. And and then I ended up having to have surgery September 2018. So an MCL replacement on my knee replacements. So I think that's when, prior to these surgeries, she said to me, why don't you, really like do more writing because that's what you can do when you're, laying at home in your bed and that sort of thing. So I would say that prior to these surgeries, I was started to think about, what you just said, like owning, okay, I've worked in technology. I know technology, just so it's a good time to read, to get caught up, to, spark an interest in something new. Like, for example, marketing and PR people, we don't have, people say to me, like, what type of events do you go to? Meaning prior to this time. It's like, I don't go to events with marketers or PR people.
Yeah.
I go to events with like tech people or events with financial people.
It's such a common networking thing that people get so wrong.
Yeah, like you go to, my dad, who died young, he was 68, he was a lawyer, but I remember I said, where can I find a boyfriend? And he said to me, go to the places where the people you would like to meet would be. So I said, do you mean like I should go to a law library? Because I wanted to be a lawyer. And he was like, yeah, I mean, that's a good example. So I think that stayed in my mind for, 28 years or 30 years, go to the places where the people you would want to meet would be.
For sure. When that accident happened, that car crash happened, and you were, like you said, bedridden, what kept, other than hiring a mentor that gave you that homework, in terms of the mindset behind it, what kept you going? Because so many people would be like, oh my God, I've just started. Now this has happened. Oh, it wasn't meant to be, or all these other things that the story they tell themselves. For you, it obviously was like, no, I'm going to change things. I'm going to adapt. What made you do that? Or have you always thought like that?
I think always have thought like that. I'm sort of scrappy. When I graduated from college, I mean, I had to work in college. I had to give blood. I worked in a cheese shop, all this kind of stuff. I grew up upper middle class, but my parents were like tough love.
Yeah.
So I was like, you're out right after college. So I worked at GE, which at the time I had no interest in working in-house at GE.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, when you have to, and then we moved to New York after I was married, and my now ex-husband was fired after our 2-month honeymoon from Goldman Sachs.
Wow.
So it's like, I think what happens is if you keep having to make all these changes, you become naturally more resilient.
Yeah, rolling with the punches.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that easy. I don't want to make it seem like, oh yeah, it was like no problem, like laying in my bed and all that. But I would say that there's a famous book by Carol Dweck. She's a psychologist. She's studied mindset for years, and she talks about two kinds of mindset: a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. And you can be taught to have a growth mindset. So, for example, if a student in school, this is a very easy example. So they get a C on a math test. So they say, forget it. I just like suck in math. I'm no good at it. So that's a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is like, well, I still have the rest of the semester to pull up my grade. I can, meet with the teacher, that sort of thing. So I'd say that one, I do a ton of reading that I think is really helpful. Like that book, Growth Mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of the whole book, and she goes through all these different professions that, it has to do with your, being curious, being interested, being open, and, and then you can learn. I mean, I think that anyone can learn almost anything.
Agreed. 100%. It's it is a super interesting topic when you start looking at how people react to things. Like the maths test is such a great example. And I hope that actually with mindset and growth mindset, fixed mindset becoming much more of a norm in terms of conversation, that will then have a really nice impact on future generations. Just because obviously the more people that are dealing with mindset and learning about mindset is going to have a nice knock-on effect. Whereas I suppose 10 years ago it wasn't something that was spoken about all the time.
I agree with you. And then if you think about like what's going on today, obviously everyone's had to, you're saying students and like younger people, everyone's had to adapt. I mean, we've had no choice. It's like if you get fired, you have no choice, but you either adapt or like
you can't just keep going back into the office.
Right. So I think that this is really going to teach people, if they look at it this way, that we can move on to different things and learn new things.
Mm-hmm.
So, you'll probably be surprised at this because I'm outgoing and I've spoken at events and global events and that kind of thing. But doing live streaming and live videos was really hard for me. So I just did the first of that like 3 weeks ago, like a Facebook Live,
Yeah.
And I decided because I was sort of, oh God, I don't want to do this. I'm working from my bedroom and all that. So I put on this baseball cap and I said, welcome to Glavin's frat house. So I just
There we go.
kind of like more casual and fun. But so it has to do, all of this is going to have to do with people. It's like the IBM, the quote from the IBM CEO, people have to, think differently. And that's why I'm saying that the takeaway is just think about your background. And like, for example, if you've traveled or if your hobby is bicycling or if you're cooking, blah, 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 there's so many different things you can do. You can expand upon those things.
Yeah. In terms of your clients, then, what's sort of the typical issues that they're coming up with at the moment that you're helping them with?
So, the issues are raising funding, of course.
Common.
The issue is, now, like, and I say now, and obviously this is not going to bring me money, but I say like, now's not the time to be selling. It's just like a real turnoff to people. So that's kind of that's a difficult thing to figure out, but the sales is a big turnoff. And I say to clients, like, you have to think about ways in which, you want to help, however that might be. I saw a commercial from Frito-Lay and it was just really powerful. They didn't talk about the chips or anything. They just had like black with white, like, we're not talking about our brand. We took down our advertising. We We just want you to know that we're contributing $1 billion to fight this pandemic. Wow. And no sales, no nothing. I thought that was like really brilliantly done. So not like making believe that like, oh yes, I'm really caring. I listened to some of your shows and I thought, oh God, the people that you've had are doing such incredible things for COVID-19. I think to be honest about what you can do and you cannot do. So I can help individuals, I can help my family, I can help, hopefully people who listen to a podcast like yours. But, I think just be honest about what you can do and your value and your mission. So I sort of tend to say to clients, maybe take a step back and don't think about selling, think about, what differentiates you in the marketplace. It's like, that book, Start With Why, Simon Sinek. So it's like, start with why. Why did you want to start this company? What is your mission? What is your value? How are you looking to help, other people? Like, what about your competitors? That sort of thing.
Yeah. And it's something I've mentioned a few times on the podcast is this is a first time for a lot of people that are going to have more time on their hands. And I think like what you just said in terms of actually go back and look at your why, look at why you're doing things, look at your business, look at your message. And it's a really great opportunity for business owners, founders, entrepreneurs, whatever they call themselves, to really reconnect with their business. Because, you mentioned funding rounds there. I think a lot of founders and CEOs get quite disconnected with their business when they're going through those funding rounds, because all they're thinking about is like Excel spreadsheet. Who am I speaking to today? How much are we trying to raise?
I need to raise another 100,000. Yeah.
And they get caught in this cycle of just this VC world of trying to raise cash. And if they've got even 5 employees, let's say, you're going to be a bit disconnected from them. So there's such a good advice, just saying, look, hold off, chill out, relax.
Exactly.
It's not a race. I think a lot of people thought that they had to do things within 3 months of kicking off or within 6 months of kicking off.
Yeah. And also, I tell clients all the time. So this is just like every single website. It always starts with the website. Like, it cannot be text heavy. It's got to be engaging. Like, put a video on it. I tell them that all the time, and they're typically not as open. It takes a lot of convincing for me to get them to change their content. Because, you know, if you're a data scientist, that's a good example, since that's who I just spoke to. So if you're a data scientist, right, your mindset is not like a marketing mindset.
Sure.
You know, you want to get your product, you know, out there. You have an invention, and so, you know, I try very hard to like convince and persuade that, look, this, you know, you understand it in this way, but you're going to lose, you know, prospects or customers or whatever if you talk about X, Y, and Z. Like if they don't understand what these terms are, then they're just going to, you know, just they'll go on to somebody else.
Yeah. Do you find that they listen to you?
Yes. I'm not, listen to me, I'm not a strong advocate of myself. I'm a strong advocate for my clients. And I'll go back to my dad again, but I really wanted to be a lawyer, and he was a prosecutor, and he said, Wendy, you can't see the other side. Until you see the other side, you're not going to win your case. Mm-hmm. Which he's right. I mean, he was right at the time and is right for many, many years. But I am more of an advocate for my clients or for ideas as opposed to for myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm looking down because I have like a ton of books, and I usually, you know, because I do research and read every day. I guess that's like my own meditation.
Yeah.
And so then I usually come up with, well, if you don't believe me, perhaps you believe Harvard Business Review, who just wrote, you know, in April 25th, 2020, that XYZ. You know, I convinced this other CEO of a fintech AI company startup. Mm-hmm. He didn't want to talk about their API. So because I was up to date, right? So then I was like, well, you know, Forbes wrote an article called Deciphering APIs. McKinsey did a spread on APIs. So why are you saying that that's not newsworthy? Yeah. And then sometimes if I'm already like have a good relationship, when they'll be like, well, how do you know? I'll say, because I have 30 years experience. And I said, it's to my benefit for you to be successful. I mean, it hurts me if you're not successful.
Yeah. You're not trying to be vindictive. You're helping them.
No, never vindictive. Yeah. I think more what you're saying, that more of late, if I get this gut that it's turning into like an argument, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't want to be a part of that.
It's just not worth it, is it? It's just not worth your time and energy most of the time.
No, I mean, if you go to a doctor, a lawyer, I mean, are you sitting and challenging like what they do? You know
look on medicalmd.com or whatever that website is, that just you Google it and it's always the worst case scenario when all you've got is a headache.
Exactly, right. No, you're not right. No more Dr. Google. No.
Yeah, yeah. Google. Doctors must hate Google, thinking about it now. They must really hate it.
They do hate Google.
Yeah. Okay, so let's fast forward then. You know, the Wendy Glavin agency. What's your plans for it moving forward? Where do you want to go with it?
So I've been so far doing not a lot. I've been doing, you know, podcasts, webinars, webcasts. I'm trying to tell people that and teach people the fact that technology is it's not going away. Okay. So instead of just thinking about the technology tools that we can use, you know, perhaps in terms of whatever it is that you do for a living, like it is in terms of the top hard skills. So like number one is like blockchain, data science, you know, data analytics. Soft skills are, you know, well, you know what soft skills would be, like collaboration, creativity, innovation. So, I mean, you can take courses, I mean, at Coursera for free. You can take I took a free course in blockchain and cryptocurrencies, like just, I don't know, like a week ago, from Wharton, from University of Pennsylvania, the Wharton School, the business school. So you can take courses online. You can actually get a certificate in something for like $50. So it's so easy to learn. Yeah. I mean, you have to have that. You have to, one has to get over that hump of like, well, no, it's like too complex. It's too, you know.
Well, it comes back to what you said earlier about the growth mindset, though. 100%. It's you've got to be in that space where it's never been easier. And every day, this is a fact. It's never been easier to learn. You know, there's never been more information out there than there is right in this moment. So it's very little excuses for people when they say, oh, I haven't been able to figure that out.
So I've been in an interesting, I got invited to, and I don't even know what the thing is. It's called Lunch Club AI. And I just got an invitation. And what you do is you select how many meetings you want per week. So if you do 2 meetings per week, it's free.
Mm-hmm.
And then you say, like, what are your goals? Like either to discuss projects, brainstorm with peers, mentor others, that sort of thing. So I've had 6 really positive conversations. One in which I want to talk to you about is a guy I spoke to the other day, and he was working at ESPN. And he's and that's interesting to me, of course, because of my son who's majoring in sport management. So we talked a bit about that, and I asked him if he watched the draft, and then he said now he's working for a cybersecurity company. So I said to him, you know the Great Hack, right, with Brittany
Mm-hmm.
Kaiser?
Yeah.
You know that, all that, the Cambridge Analytical
scandal.
Yeah. So I said to him, you should watch The Great Hack. I said, it's a documentary. It's true. Oh, well, I don't know. I said, listen, you just said that you're like in cybersecurity from sports. So it's like the best thing to watch. And then people typically say, well, our data is already, our data privacy is gone. There's nothing we can do. But okay, fine. But at least get educated about it. Mm-hmm. So I said to him, please, because I'm speaking to him tomorrow. I said, please just do me a favor. And I could tell he was young. He's like the age of my kids. I said, okay, now I'm going to sound like a mom, but you have to watch this documentary. Like, it will teach you what you need to know when you work at a cybersecurity company.
Yeah. When you speak to him tomorrow, you're expecting a full episode notes.
Exactly. I'm going to do, you gave me an idea. I think I'll do a test.
Yeah.
It's a 20-question test.
A surprise pop quiz.
Yeah, exactly.
It'll keep him on his toes as well, which will be good for him.
I think the other thing is like what you're saying, when you talk to other people, it generates ideas. Mm-hmm. I mean, you think that way. Like, I'm like the ESPN guy. So then that had me think of new things and had him think of new things. So
100%. That's one of the things I've learned from this podcast. Your episode 98 since the start of the year.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. 2 away from 100. And yeah, sure, I think I've missed like 10 or 15 or something like that. But it's the quality of conversation that I have absolutely loved. And even if I asked the same question to every single person, it gives every single person gives a completely different answer. And I almost feel selfish at times for the amount of knowledge that I'm getting from these conversations. But it's also the fact that I've got to remember that actually, no, people do watch, people do listen, and hopefully they get something. I get the occasional message saying, hey, man, I really love that podcast, or I love that specific episode. And it's just fantastic to see the amount of people that are willing, like yourself, to just talk about what's going on in their world, what's going on in their business, how they're interacting with people. Because I think that's really interesting is, you could say, hey, this is my business, this is what we do. But the conversation we've just had is actually all about how you're interacting with people. And that's what people really love, because it means that they can learn from it.
And, people, and I have another, I'm not going to tell the story, but another really traumatic story. But what people always say is, like, that's why I brought up this car crash and Mack truck crash. And by the way, I'm still in a personal injury case. So let's broadcast that thing all over the place.
Yeah.
Again, but the thing is, I never wanted to talk about that. I carried a cane for a long time. I went to South by Southwest with the cane. I felt like awkward, but, people said it inspires other people.
Yeah.
I used to feel like it's too personal. It's too private. I don't really want to share but everybody's fighting battles. And, there's a really great quote. I'm not going to be able to say it exactly, but it has to do with, when you think that your life is tough, it's somebody else's fairy tale.
Yeah.
And, it's people talk about, well, COVID-19 but, there's still people out there that are sick, people that are dying, so I think it's also to be able to be more compassionate, empathetic, grateful. I mean, those sound a little bit cliche, but, I do, for example, both guys that I mentioned, let's say the ESPN guy and the other one, so we scheduled calls again for tomorrow. So, for example, I think the way it originally set up would be, or the way which originally would work is, okay, so I give an hour free consultation, and you hear me, I talk a lot, so people usually get more information, and then that's it. It's like, okay, time to, you need to pay. I do this for a living, but I just want to be. I almost feel like when one of the guys said, well, what would you charge? I almost felt like uncomfortable. I said, let's not even like talk about that now. Let's just talk about, what I mentioned to you before. So I think that it's people giving more of their time, not to get something in return, meaning to either help another person, or, if a person's feeling sad, or what I like to do is, I have a friend, and she's my friend that's an attorney, but she's like, do you ever see Larry David, Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Yeah, I used to love that show.
Yeah, and then it's still on,
Yeah, they've just relaunched it as well, haven't they?
Yeah, and then I don't want to mention it, but I will say I did like Louis C.K. And I know now people will be like, oh, forget it, we're not going to listen to this Wendy Glavin episode, but I like to look at the irony, the funniness, like turning these difficult situations into something that's funny.
Yeah.
There's a hilarious video that somebody posted on Facebook. So it's this family that does these videos. I mean, they have to be professional. They've got like more than 1 million views, and it has like the noon one. One is the husband. They're unbelievable. The husband is, so it's called I See Your True Colors. So then his wife is like, her hair is, because this is for all women, like our hair is getting darker and we're not used to coloring it at home. So he's singing, but like really beautifully, like, I see your true colors coming through. Your hair is really brown, and it's not really blonde. And I mean, so it's funny taking some of these things and turning it into, like the irony of it.
Yeah, 100%. Putting a smile on people's faces, which is what life's is about. Listen, Wendy, I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, but I would love for you to just leave me with something I ask all my guests. And if you were going to speak to a founder or business owner right now, what would be your top 3 tips in this current situation to help them get through just business at the moment? And I mean, you've already given like 101 tips, but if we can just focus it down to 3.
Okay, so it's a difficult thing to answer because we're in a pandemic. I would say, number 1, stop selling to people. People don't want to be sold to. That's just, it really is. It's always the case. People never want to be sold to. Like, that takes like a special type of managing, so that it's not really selling, but it's helping. But I think to show people that you care, to bring out your like true side.
Yeah, bring out your true colors.
Yeah, because exactly, because people don't hire you for what you do. People hire you for what you are. And I'm going to leave you with like a famous quote, which is, I'd like to take credit, but I can't. It's Carla Harris, managing director of Morgan Stanley, who said what I was saying in the beginning. If you look back at your experiences, your background, your personality, your relationships, your interests, your hobbies, and bring your authentic self to the table, that's your competitive advantage. So in other words, people don't hire me because I do marketing, or maybe, hire you to do a podcast. They hire people for other people. So, bring your personality and who you really are to the table, because then people will trust you, and trust is at the heart of of all successful relationships, whether in business, personally, whatever. Just bring your authentic self to the table so that people trust you.
Yeah, and that is an excellent way to finish off our conversation. One last question though, Wendy. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, speak to you, chat to you, pick your brains, however it is, what's the best way for them to do that?
So they can email me, and I'm going to spell it, at Wendy, WEND as in dog, Y, at Wendy Glavin. That's G as in George, L as in love, A as in Apple, V as in Victor, I-N as in Nancy. Wendy at wendyglavin.com. I'm on Twitter. You can DM me on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. However, Facebook, I do have a business one. I'm not that active on Facebook business. My personal is Wendy Zucker, Z-U-C-K-E-R Glavin. So think of Dr. Howard Zucker, who I don't know if I'm related to or not.
That's for a later episode. We're going to do a full test. We're going to find out. We're going to crack this puzzle.
Yeah. Go to my website, wendyglavin.com. But please feel free to contact me directly, and you certainly can call me as well.
Excellent, Wendy. Thank you so much for coming on. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Me too. And as I say to people who are not from London who say cheers, I'm like, okay, you're not allowed to say cheers or like brilliant if you're not from London.
Yeah, very true.
Because I'm with you, cheers.
Cheers. There we go. I love that. I haven't said cheers in ages, actually. Jeez.
Oh, you don't say brilliant?
Brilliant. No, I say brilliant all the time.
Yeah. Why didn't I hear that in the podcast? Like, Glavin, you're brilliant.
You're brilliant. You're brilliant. Cheers for coming on. There we go.
So
Thank you so much, Wendy. Thanks everyone for listening and watching. This has been Founders 365.
Thank you. Bye.